Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show on this Wednesday, April the 15th, which used to be tax day, except that this year it's not April 15th, it's July 15th. Uh, all
Like,
but four states, by the way, have moved their deadlines back to July 15th. There were four states that did not do that.
really?
Yeah.
I
Uh,
thought it
Vir-
was a
Vir-
nationwide thing.
Virginia was one. Idaho, Idaho was the another one, and I forgot what the other two were. They're making people file earlier for whatever reason. Oh well,
Oh well,
this
yeah.
it's a surreal world that we live in, and that's the way it is. And just in general, Joe, and I've been thinking about this since the weekend and since early next week, but uh, it makes a lot of sense. And I was thinking about how we forecast, say, for severe weather. Okay, you put a large area under a watch for something that may actually only impact a very, very small part of that area because of the nature of severe weather. But that's kind of how that way you have to handle it. And a lot of the things that are happening in terms of all the stuff with uh, the coronavirus and the pandemic and uh, the stay at home orders and quarantine and that sort of thing in terms of people's reaction. And all I can think of is the reactions that I see people make are exactly the same as they would make when you make a forecast, uh, especially in a severe weather situation or in a snowstorm. You have the people that don't believe there. You have the people that absolutely don't believe it. You have the people that um, will criticize you both for putting the forecast out, and then they'll criticize you. Those same people will criticize you no matter what the outcome is afterward. Okay, and which is which is kind of like what I see reading online. You have people complaining that some people were complaining that they were going to do this stay-at-home orders when this whole got started. Some were complaining that they shouldn't do it. Then they did the stay-at-home orders. Now the same people that were complaining then are complaining now. They should lift the quarantines up as soon as they can. They should not lift the quarantines up as soon as they can. And I just keep thinking, you know what? You and I have been doing this, having to deal with a microcosm of this for 40 years, and it has especially become magnified in the last 10 or so years with the expansion and advent of social media. So I kind of watch people reacting to all of this and thinking, I've been down this road before. None of this surprises me.
Yeah. Well, we made the comment about this, all this talk about the models and how one model is saying
Yeah,
one thing and another
exactly.
model is saying another. And I said, this sounds so familiar. Whenever a big snowstorm or a big storm was heading in our direction, we always fell back on the same excuse. Well, the European model is saying this, and the GFS model is saying that, or whatever like that. And now, in this particular situation, people are getting more, I guess, upset or angry. Why can't you tell us something, positive?
Well, there's a lot there. There are points there. You and I both know there are points where you have to kind of go with the flow. Okay, the
Right.
fluidity. All right, you got a model that forecasts is 6 inches of snow. You already got 6 inches on the ground, and it looks like it's going to snow for another 6 hours. Then guess what? The 6 inches ain't going to is going to have to go up.
Right.
Okay, but there are people who just seem to think that certitude is like especially for something that you don't have that requires fluid a fluid has a fluidness about it.
Right.
You have a limited amount of data going in, so you're only as good as the data you put in. And I think Dr. Fauci has pointed. He was sitting there about, I don't know, maybe a handful of days ago, and I was watching him being interviewed on one of the news channels. I forget which one, and he's explaining the whole thing about the models and the models that they use. And I'm listening to his response. I'm thinking, Yes, this all makes sense to me. It's weather models. If we go through we go through the same type of thought processes, and unfortunately, you'd love to be able to give. I'm sure they would love to be able to say, hey, we're going to be able to do this on such and such a date and so on. But it just doesn't work that way. And then, it really also boils down to that. Well, most people seem to kind of understand that that's how it works. Everything has gotten so ugly. It's so politicized. Everybody's reactions are utterly predictable. You just have to know where they stand about the president or the governor or wherever they happen to be or whatever part of the country, and their reactions are just they're reflexive. No one sits back and kind of looks at the broad picture anymore. So, oh well, I that's my rant for the day.
It kind of reminds me in the situation with for example, with the president and Dr. Fauci. It kind of reminds me of me relative to R. Peter Strauss. Now, for those of you who are not aware, many years ago, radio station WMCA in New York was owned by a gentleman by the name of R. Peter Strauss. He actually married into the Macy's fortune. His wife Ellen was part of the family, the Macy's family,
Right.
and so he one time he was the under the Jimmy Carter administration. He was
I
the
remember him. Yeah.
he was the director of the Voice of America, and then later he came back to running WMCA. I happen to be the lucky individual to be doing the weather on WMCA at the time when he came back. And the one thing that R. Peter Strauss could never understand is why can't you weather people be more definitive? Why are you always couching
Because you don't pay
in
me enough.
forecast? Why can't you just come right out and say we're going to have 12 inches